Sega's Master System had a rough time in some parts of the world. In the US and Japan, it was buried under the popularity of Nintendo's 8-bit machine, and virtually disappeared by the time the Genesis was released. This led to a reputation for many gamers that the system simply was a flop and not worth their time. In this episode, we will be going over 10 games that prove the Master System had the chops to go head-to-head with the NES any day of the week had the playing field been level. The vast majority of these games were ports from the exact same content. I hope you guys enjoy 10 games better on the Sega Master System. You guys know Sega's NES Classic Shinobi quite well. This also saw a port to the NES in 1989, and let's be honest, the Master System edition is by far the better game. First, it's more colorful and the graphics are brighter and more detailed. The sound is also quite a bit better, particularly when you employ the FM sound unit. But where the Master System takes the real prize is in the content department. All of the weapons are missing in the NES version. The fully powered up grenades are gone as well. The NES version has also seen some stage redesigns on anything that was more than 2 levels high, turning them into straight left to right linear experiences. I still enjoyed the NES version a bit as a kid, but it was no replacement for Sega's clearly superior version. When I saw Rampage on the Master System, I was utterly blown away by how much better it looked and sounded than the NES release. I mean night and day in every category. The graphics look nearly a generation apart. There is such a disparity between color and sprite work in the two games. The Master System game just doesn't look better either, it plays better too. It's much closer to the arcade in the way the monsters handle, attack, climb, and respond to falls and damage. US Master System fans didn't have much to celebrate in the 80s, but Rampage was damn sure on that short list. Choosing a double dragon between the two machines is actually much more difficult than our previous selections. The NES Double Dragon actually holds its own in many areas. Both games look great, both games sound great, and both games play great. So we need to break things down to the finer details here, and that's where the Master System comes out on top. The NES version lacks 2-player co-op during the main game, and features a strange upgrade system to acquire additional moves like jump kicks as you progress. The Master System version is a much closer representation of the arcade, staying true to the stage design, co-op 2-player, and having all the attacks from the get-go. I also prefer the FM audio of the Master System release. While I feel the NES version plays a tad better overall, its other shortcomings make the Sega's effort the one to play. I absolutely suck at California games, so please bear with me as this awful gameplay unfolds. This one is just a matter of visuals being quite a bit better on the Master System. The color difference here actually makes quite an impact. The NES version does play a tad easier, but I'm not sure the trade-off is worth the visual downgrade. Boy, this is another one where the color difference is major. Operation Wolf was based on the arcade gun game of the same name, and the content here is nearly identical. Both play well with their system's light guns on a CRT, and they both have the same stage and weapon content, but you can't help but get over just how much better the Master System game looks. There's real color here, as opposed to the 4 shades of green and browns in the NES game. Since there isn't much in the way of music in either version, the visuals are even more important than ever. Believe it or not, I like video board games, especially when they are well done. Both systems received Monopoly, but it was the US developed Master System game that was surprisingly superior in every single way. Better color, better detail, and vastly superior animations make it the one to choose. I like the speed of the NES edition, but it just falls short in every other way. Even better, the Sega cart came with a built-in save system, something you didn't see often back then. Grab a bunch of friends and pass around the controllers, because you won't find a better 8-bit Monopoly out there. When I was younger, I had no clue how to play Lemmings, so I was a tad older before I appreciated it. And it was the fine version of the Master System game that impressed me in every single way. Just look at the difference in color and detail. Fortunately for the NES version, this is a game that doesn't need flashy graphics to be fun, and it does play a great game of Lemmings. If you only have access to the NES game, you'll do fine, but having a choice of the two, the Master System is what you want. I threw this one in as a surprise, but there's a really good argument that the 8-bit version of Castle of Illusion is even better than its 16-bit counterpart. While the Genesis version was a graphical marvel at its release, The Master System game has some impressive features as well. The stages are designed with care so the gameplay has a nice rise and fall in challenge. The sound fits the atmosphere perfectly, and of course the great Disney animation comes to life on the screen. It pains me to say it, but as much as I love the Genesis game, the Master System version may be the better overall piece of software. Wonderboy had an interesting transition to the home systems back in the day. When it hit the Master System, it was pretty much a game that tried to mimic the arcade in every way. When Hudson scored the license for the NES, they changed his appearance, his name, and dabbled with a few new design elements. In the end, they are still very similar overall. I mean, side by side, you can tell immediately they were ripped from the same original work. Both of them are solid across the board, but Wonderboy is the better of the two. The graphics are a touch better, and I prefer the original look of the characters and enemies. You can't hate on the NES version though, so play them both for yourselves to see where you stand. I hated Paperboy in the arcade. Freaking dogs chasing you, kids on big wheels, and even storm drains were out to get you. I mean, this Paperboy better be making bank delivering papers in this god-awful neighborhood. When it came home, I played it on the NES first, and when I showed it to my friend, he just laughed at me. Sure enough, when I saw the Master System game, I knew why. Wow, again the color difference here is just major. The plain lawns and colorless characters in the NES edition are replaced by flowers and bright clothing in the Master System release. No contest here, the old Master System wipes the floor with the NES version. My last entry is just for fun to show you something you may have never seen before. Robocop vs. Terminator had been a great run-and-gun shooter on a number of platforms, including the Master System. What a lot of folks don't know is there was a version on the NES as well. It was finished but never actually released, and I thought I'd show you the two games together. The team that had done the Master System version went in hard and tried to give us a close approximation of the content in the Genesis version. Large characters, blood and gore, and even some of the power-ups. The NES game kinda just wings it with tiny characters and slow gameplay. The NES attempt plays a tad smoother and with less slowdown, but considering the gulf in presentation and content, I'll take some flicker and slowdown with my exploding bodies. This episode honestly wasn't just to take a 10-minute shit all over the NES as a Sega fanboy. It was meant more to be a positive video about a platform that often receives a sea of negativity in the United States. The Master System was indeed crushed there, and never put up any kind of a real fight before Sega dropped it and released the Genesis in 1989. Yet the system still endures with its fans and enjoys a solid library. While it didn't have the third-party support the NES enjoyed, it still managed some impressive software. It rarely had the same games as the NES, but when it did, the system's advantages in colors and sprites would make it a formidable version that its sales numbers rarely conveyed. The Master System was a hell of a platform, and these games here are only a touch of what you can discover there. I'm Sega Lord X, thank you guys for watching, and I will catch you next time.